evening, everybody. Welcome to our Traffic Council meeting for November 21st. We'll just begin with introductions. My name is David Kozis. I'm the Transportation Coordinator from the Public Works Department. Other voting members of the Traffic Council are Captain Devine from the Traffic Bureau. We have Isaac Prezant. He's our traffic engineer from Public Works. Mitch Fishman is our citizen representative. We have Councillor Downs is our last voting member. She's from Ward 5. And then Danielle Delaney is our committee clerk. I also see the Councillor Gentiles on from Ward 4 and Jeannie Fairley, our ADA coordinator. All right, I think that's it. So we will begin with our first item of the evening. So our first item is it's AP 7-24, Donna Messenger requesting an accessible parking space in front of 147 Arnold Road. This item was heard by the Newton Commission on Disability on October 21st, and they voted unanimously to approve the request 8-0. We'll just have a quick presentation, and then I will open it up to public comment. So this is the location of the requested accessible space on Arnold Road, where you see the red rectangle. Here's a view of the house, and in this white rectangle is where the accessible space would be located if approved. Here's another view. All right. So that is the whole presentation for this item. If we do decide to vote to approve the item, we have the language in front of us, which would allow us to vote on it tonight. So I do see the Jeannie's here. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this request before we vote? I'll go back so we could see the location. You can see the driveway where the accessible space would be located and the path of travel into the front of the house. I see Donna Messenger, you have your hand up, and if you could just unmute, and I take it you live at 147 Arnold Road. And you just need to unmute. Can you unmute? Danielle, do you think that she should have the ability to unmute?
She should be fine. I keep asking her to unmute and she's...
Okay.
She can't unmute.
Okay. There should be a mute button that you could press. Okay, you got it, I think.
Okay, I think we got
it. You got it.
I kept pressing it. Thank you. So,
yes.
Thank you. So, I mentioned to Ginny, who's on the call, that I'm not 100% sure that this is going to work well for our situation. The issue for my daughter is, I know that I think my understanding is that because it can't be in the area where the actual sloped sidewalk exists cannot be part of the parking spot. Is that accurate?
No, you can't park in front of the driveway if that's what you're asking.
Not in front of the driveway, in front of the area that has the sloped sidewalk. That
you mean that?
Yeah.
You can't. That's a $300 fine for parking in front of a curb cut.
Right. Okay.
So that's why it would be right in front of it.
Yeah.
Does anyone just? Oh, maybe this is not a curb cut, Isaac.
It's not
no curb, right?
Yeah.
In this case, if there was a curb there.
Right. So there's a old city standard for having a concrete block sort of in front of your front path or as close as possible. That's a sort of an old recommendation based on essentially giving folks an ability to have somewhere to place their trash receptacles and whatnot, or like deliveries. So that would not be considered an accessible ramp. So you could park in front of it if you would like to.
Okay, can just confirm with Captain Devine that there's no parking control officer that would issue a ticket for parking in front and blocking this ramp right here?
To be honest, I'd be surprised if they take it on that. So
Besides,
Okay.
surprised what? I'm sorry. I didn't
if
hear-
they would take it on that, I mean, that's very hard for them to look for. They're not on Arnold Street ticketing typically.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, my thought was, and it's funny looking at the photo because it doesn't look like, I think that's that picture was taken before the new curbing was put in, so it's not where the ramp, we call it a ramp, but it's a sloped sidewalk, was actually put a little bit further back.
Actually, that's a good point. This road was recently redone and there is curbing there now, right?
We have curbing and we have a sloped sidewalk that I requested because of my daughter's disability. We were using that. That, what you see there no longer exists. That's now grass. And the ramp, quote unquote ramp, is a little further, I don't know what the direction would be, but toward away from my driveway, further back. So it would change where the location of the handicap spot would be,
So,
supposed to be.
is your goal to sort of move this white box a little bit closer to the driveway,
Further back the other direction.
further back? So like
Yeah,
where, I'm not, now that there's curbing there, Isaac, is that still your point of view that that we would never have a $200 fine for blocking a curb cut?
I suppose I'm having a little hard time from the description understanding if there is an actual ramp
yeah,
constructed or not. I mean, if there is, if there's curbing and then the curbing drops down to essentially be flush with the roadway, and there appears to be sort of a slope back towards the sidewalk, then that would appear like it was intended to be an accessible ramp. I suppose it might take another field visit. This is not something that I caught.
it's strange because I submitted a photo with the curbing already put in.
Okay.
I don't want to hold you all up, and because I know you have other issues to talk about. But my questioning and concern is really about where the location can be, because depending on where the council determines it needs to be, it may or may not actually serve our needs, and I might be better off without the sign. Because what I really need to be able to do is get her in and out from the passenger door in the back seat onto that sloped area. And I hate wasting anyone's time. I just want to make sure that if we put something in, that it's actually going to serve our needs better than what we currently have.
So first of all, don't worry about wasting anyone's time. You're not wasting anyone's time at all.
Thank you.
We do have a policy that we look at when we consider whether or not to approve accessible spaces in residential neighborhoods.
Mhm.
And one of the factors is how busy is the street in terms of parking,
Yeah.
right? Is this ramp in front of your house parked up so regularly that you never have the ability to use it? If
Right.
that is the case, then an accessible space should be needed.
Yes.
If you live on a street that is very infrequently parked up, or people hardly ever park there, there's really no reason to put up a sign, right? If you could use
Yeah.
it almost all the time that you need. Anyway, it does seem like it's a pretty quiet street, a lot of driveways, big enough
There are,
driveways.
yeah.
So do you feel like there are times that you would need to park on the street rather than in your driveway where you can't because the space is taken? That's the basic question, I think.
Yeah, and what I mentioned in the previous the disability meeting was that it varies. The street can be very quiet some days, and other days they're lined up, there's a lot of work being done, a lot of workers. And the street lines up with trucks. And I thought, okay, we put this we put the slope sidewalk in with the city, you know, work together on putting that in. And we just had this conversation, like it would be, we thought that it would be a protective measure to have that, so we could have access to it. The other piece is that my driveway is, you can't necessarily tell in the picture, but it's a pretty steep hill. So we can use the driveway to get her in and out, but I also have care attendants to take her to medical appointments, and she has appointments every day. And they're in their own cars, so it can be handy to have a designated area. But in all honesty, if the sign is put in a location that isn't serving our needs, then we're just limiting parking, and we're not necessarily getting our needs met. So I would love to be able to get a better picture of where we could put the spot, being in compliance with what the criteria, you know, with what's allowed, and then determine whether or not we could go, whether or not, I mean, I would just rescind my request if it wasn't going to really serve our needs. But if it can serve our needs, I'd really appreciate it.
David, in theory, can we do a trial to allow us to shift it, you know, whatever it might be, 20 feet if we have to, and then just come back and close the trial, assuming everyone's comfortable with where we're able to place it? Is that an option? Because we don't have, well,
I mean, it
otherwise,
might be, I guess the question is it a curb ramp? Can you park in front? You can't park in front of a curb.
Right.
So if this is considered a curb ramp, the space, if you still want it, would need to be in front of the curb ramp so that the passenger would get out and use the curb ramp to get up into the sidewalk.
And they're not allowed, then people wouldn't be allowed to park immediately behind. My concern is that if it's not part of the spot, that it might get blocked. But
right.
yours
Well,
wouldn't be blocked. They wouldn't be allowed.
If
Yeah.
someone's blocking it, they would get, potentially receive a parking ticket,
Right,
$200 fine.
okay.
If you're just using it to drop off and not actually parking there, then, unlikely that you would get a ticket.
Right. Okay, so what does it mean to have a trial?
Well, I wonder if it might make, well, I want to see what Jeannie says first, but it might make more sense because I just, I took a picture, but this picture was a Google, the road was under construction, I think, when I was there,
Yeah,
right?
but
So
I
I
did
just,
submit photos with my application, so I'm not sure where,
but I do remember that there was curbing now
yeah,
and that the ramp is a little bit different now. So maybe it makes sense to hold this and then we can go and get a better picture and get consensus on exactly where the accessible space could be or doesn't need to be. If we're gonna have it, I think that might be better and just hear this again at the December meeting.
is it,
But let's see what Jeannie has to say.
So from my understanding of when the road was repaved and sidewalks were being improved upon, that it is just a transition slope. It did not become an actual curb ramp. It probably doesn't even have the exact right slope at the moment. And so I wouldn't think, as I think that's what Captain Devine said, that it would be ticketed or anything like that. And that it does seem like if there's enough space in the back. Oh, thanks for lowering my hand. If there's enough space and lining up, that would probably be exactly what would help, because it'll just slope the sidewalk enough to get into the car. It is not an official curb ramp, and I wouldn't think PCO would see it or think of it as a curb ramp, and the sign would be there anyway. So, but I whatever you decide on the hold or the trial, whichever way you want to do it, but it is true that her application that was presented at the commission did show this slightly sloped sidewalk with not going over a curb, and I don't believe cutting a curb either.
I think that we need to view it again. I mean,
Okay.
our department, we handle parking ticket appeals and
Sure.
hearings, and people get these $200 tickets for blocking a curb ramp, and I don't know what the PCOs would consider it to be. I think that we need to look at it and talk it through a little bit more, and
Okay.
I would recommend that we hold this until the next meeting, which will be on December. When is it? Did we say, Danielle? December 21st? Is that what we?
Let's see,
December 19th. December 19th.
19th.
So Donna, you need to unmute again.
Thank you. I do have a photo right here, but question is there an option to have whoever it is who comes out to take a picture, that I just go out and talk with them for a few minutes outside and we can assess if location options, or is it always in front of the ramp? Is it ever the sign ever behind the ramp?
Yeah, it could be behind the ramp. The
Because
question is, we're not sure if it could be over the, like,
I
across
see.
the ramp.
Okay, so my request would be, if we go forward, if it seems like it's going to be useful, and we go forward, it would be more useful for us if it was, the spot was behind where the slope sidewalk is. I also do have the photo right here. I don't know if you all want to see it or not. You just rather come and look. The other issue is my daughter's having a surgery in December, and I'm going to be most likely out of town with her rehab. So certainly we can wait until the meeting after that if need be, but nothing in the winter time. Also, it's the whole other scene. If there's a handicapped spot, is there more attention played to the plowing in the area, or is it?
No, I don't think
Curious.
there's no impact to the plowing.
Okay, so it's the same. Yeah, I mean, a lot of handicap spots end up with dumping grounds of ice on them, hopefully. So that's been my experience, but I was just curious. But is that an option? Because it seems like if I could just talk with someone outside my house.
Yeah, I think that we could arrange. I think that we just need to look at it more closely with the appropriate people. Maybe Jeannie, maybe me, maybe Isaac or Captain Divine, or the right. We'll figure it out, and then we'll plan a trip out there. And
shouldn't take long.
Jeannie has your contact information. So I think that we should just hold this if it's okay if everyone else agrees. And sorry, but I guess we should have taken the more recent picture.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
fine.
my fault.
Yeah, and we can coordinate. Like I said, she's having the surgery, so it might because of that, slow it down, the process, but I really think it'll take us 10-15 minutes max, maybe even less, if we just met in person and talked about it.
Okay, so let's do that. Does that any other comments from other members of Traffic Council? We're looking at a motion to hold.
I'll make that motion to hold. This makes sense.
Okay, so there's a motion to hold. Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Prezant,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Captain Divine.
Aye.
Okay, that's held 5-0.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to go on to our next item then. So our next item is TC 1824. This is Vladin and Tammy Jovanovic, 276 Greenwood Street, requesting a four-way stop at the intersection of Greenwood Street and Arnold Road. And I believe that we are joined by Councilor Lipoff from Ward 8, I thought I saw.
Yes, Council
Oh.
Lipoff is here.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so let's start with the presentation. This is the location just down the street from where we were before, Arnold Road and Greenwood Street. I'm going to do part of this presentation. I think Isaac might need to jump in at certain points. So here's a photo of the intersection. Right now we have stop signs on both on Arnold Road, both approaches, and there's no stop signs on Greenwood Street. The request is to create a four-way stop to add stop signs on Greenwood Street as well. So the analysis that we conducted to help us make the decision were that we did turning movement counts in the morning peak half-hour period on October 30th. We looked at the history of crashes in the intersection, and we looked at the guidance offered by the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which we'll get to in the next slide. Okay, so in terms of the turning movements, what we saw when we were out there was this is Greenwood going across, and then Arnold Road is north to south. So much higher volume on Greenwood, over 100 vehicles traveling in this direction, and then 90 in the opposite direction, versus on Arnold Road only like 3 or 4 vehicles and only 1 pedestrian. So very significant percentage of traffic is Greenwood. It's definitely the primary route. Arnold Road is for sure the secondary road, the minor approach. There was 1 crash that was reported within the past 5 years. It was a single vehicle that hit a tree, I think. It's a little bit blocked. Yeah, a city tree, and no bicycle or pedestrian crashes. We do look at, like I said, the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Stop signs are clearly not meant to be traffic calming. It's not intended to be a traffic calming device. It is to show right of way. And here are the analyses that were looked at, the criteria that we look at. Maybe Isaac, do you want to do this slide, go over this slide a little bit better than me?
Sure. I think without necessarily digging into each specific detail, this page and the next is going to have several criteria that are outlined in the METCD. The ones that are most commonly met are typically ones related to crashes and sight distance concerns. This one here, sort of focusing in on the crashes. As discussed, there was only 1, and the criteria here talks about 5 angle type crashes in a 12-month period. We really don't have the vehicle volumes or the speeds to indicate a need either. And David, you can go on to the next one.
Oh, that's all we
Okay.
have.
Got it.
So I think that is the full presentation that we have. Our recommendation is to deny this request. It doesn't meet the warrants, any of the warrants. So we'll open it up for public comment. Even if we do vote to deny the request, there are some things that could be done outside of the traffic council process. We would look to possibly paint, crosswalks or stop bars, add signs, police enforcement, right? There's a frequent request for the police to put up their mobile speed feedback display sign. So that could possibly come to this location as well, into their cycle. So that is the presentation. And now I see Councilor Farrell, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. I would ask you to seriously consider putting a stop sign here. There aren't necessarily lots of accidents, but I frequently try to leave Burdine Street, which is simply down Greenwood just a little bit. And at the period that you monitored this, that traffic is, as I'm sure you understand, essentially one parent and one child driving to Newton South High School. And they do not in any way, for some reason, courteously allow a car coming in from Arnold or Burdine any opportunity to get on to Greenwood. It's absolutely stunning. The only opportunities we have to do that is on those streets where there are stop signs and they have a chance to move forward. I frequently find myself, in order to head to Lions Drive onto Greenwood, I will, when there's a break in the traffic coming back from Lions Drive from the high school, the parents who've dropped off students, they do not stop at the stop sign at Lions Drive at the intersection of Greenwood. They glide through quickly. All of that, the traffic on both sides, makes it virtually impossible for residents to reasonably wait a few cars and get into traffic. It just doesn't stop. And with all due respect to the parents who are trying to get their kids on school on time, open your eyes, see that there are other people in the neighborhood who are trying to get to work, maybe get their own kids to school, whatever, but stop and let somebody out. And that is, I believe, the reason why the residents are requesting this stop sign. It's got nothing to do with the frequency of accidents. It's got to do a lot, to be perfectly honest, with courtesy and just trying to get out and move forward. But I don't know who sat there that morning and watched the traffic, but it is non-stop at that time because 9 o'clock is when the school starts, as you all know. And I don't mean to go on about this, but it is truly, absolutely understand, infuriating that people don't have the courtesy when they see a car on the side street to stop for a second and just let them into the traffic. They're not going to lose anything. And the only way it seems to me to have that happen is to put up a stop sign. I respectfully request that you reconsider the motion to deny it, or the advice to deny it. 8:30, 8:15 to 9 o'clock in the morning is horrible for residents in this area, and Greenwood is the only major road we have to get out. Thank you very much for listening.
David, your audio is not working. Not sure why.
Excuse me, can I get a clarification while he's fixing that? Did Councillor Farrell, is his statement that for people to get out of Burdine and the roads that are closer to Brandeis, I still call it Brandeis, that the stop sign would allow cars to stop and have cars not be flowing constantly near Burdine? Is that what you're saying?
Councilor, it's not just Burdine, it's in Arnold also. You know, virtually, I believe, every other intersection along Greenwood has stop signs at all four ways.
Right, no, they do. I'm just to put a stop sign here, and I haven't stated what, you know, I'm waiting to listen to everybody, and I'll
Right.
speak. But you know, stop signs at one point to help out streets way down the way. That's a new one for me, and I'd like to hear from Mr. Kozis what he thinks about that. Instead of looking at the intersection with 3 or 4 cars that are coming to the stop sign now, one thing has nothing to do with another. I've got much more to say about this, but Mr. Kozis, to put a stop sign there, almost a mile down the road to help people get out of other streets, that's not proper warranting, is it?
Can everyone hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I would say it's not. We did collect this data on a school day, 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. This is our city traffic engineer who does this all the time. This is the volumes, this is the data, and we're basing our recommendations on the data that we collected. The data shows very few cars coming out of Arnold Road at that time. I also did want to say that if Traffic Council does end up voting to deny this request because it does not meet any of the warrants, there still is an appeals process. If a group of residents or a city councilor strongly disagrees with our recommendation as the Traffic Council, an appeal could be presented to the city clerk's office anytime before December 11th. And if that's the case, then this item is put on hold, transferred to the city council, and the city council would rehear this whole item and make the final determination. That is our city process. Should we move on to the next hand? I see Vlad and Jay.
Thank you. So for one, I want to, granted, related but not the same reasoning. I completely agree with Steven. There is a constant flow of cars at that time, be that first thing in the morning or later when folks are driving their kids back from school. For us, with all due respect, I understand you folks have reasoning and methodologies, and I'm sure the reasoning is sound when you're thinking about what would call for the use of a four-way stop sign to facilitate that four-way traffic, right? And I think that's also what Steven's getting at. For me and my family, it's a little bit different. Actually, I think it's very different. It's not the crashes that have occurred. It is the crashes that we've been avoiding and dodging on a daily basis. It is not just the parents, although sadly, it's mostly, and a lot of them are parents who are just in a hurry to get to their next point and then move on with their day. So I actually presented a video that was submitted with the city where I was nearly hit right in front of my house just because I slowed down to make a left-hand turn into my driveway because this lady couldn't be bothered to slow down.
Thank you for that comment.
And by the way, this happens regularly. It is, we all rely on other individuals to do their part, right? To slow down where necessary, also to stop where necessary. And what I can tell you, this is an accident waiting to happen. And the reasoning that you have for a four-way stop sign, just to facilitate taking turns, right? Going from this way or this way, it's really not applicable here. So I would love to hear more. If you don't think stop sign is appropriate, what is appropriate to slow down the traffic? Because I'm telling you, it is a racetrack. Once people turn from Dedham onto Greenwood, they know there is no stop sign. And mind you, there are signs already, 2 of them on the same block indicating speed limit 25 miles an hour. Children playing in the area. That's at the very top of the hill. Just as you turn right off Dedham onto Greenwood, people couldn't be bothered to slow down. So if Isaac will only count the crashes, be that bikes, children, cars, and that would give us a stop sign, I don't know. I wonder, should we buy a puppy and just let it loose in the area to see if it gets hit within, 5 minutes? Because it's very likely.
All right, let's move on to the next person. I see Natalie Sumali.
Hi, Natalie Stermelli. I live at 77 Arnold Road. I've been there for just under 20 years. I joined today because I wasn't sure, the reasoning behind the stop sign. I've raised 3 kids there. They're now 20, 19, and 16. And am opposed to the stop sign. I did do the research, and I was happy to see that you've, following the same guidelines that I found online. It sounds like I didn't actually know what the reasoning for the stop sign was. But Vlad, I believe you live a couple doors down from me, and now I'm making the connections to who it is and what it's for. So it sounds like it's to slow traffic down and to keep your kids and maybe dogs safe. Yeah, I've never had that experience. I've been here 20 years. The one person walking on your report was probably me with my dogs, because I walk down Arnold Road to that park multiple times a day. To me, a stop sign there is more disruptive than it is helpful. And yeah, so I'm just a neighbor here saying, why don't we put up a sign, like one of those speed signs with the flashing that, takes people's speeds, or put a police officer there and see if that, helps people feel more safe. But I just don't see how a stop sign, according to this, whatever research, MUTCD, research that tells us that stop signs are not to be used for speed control, but for for vehicle crash avoidance or what have you. So that's my piece.
All right, thank you very much for that comment. I want to reiterate that we at Traffic Council, we're responding to the item that was docketed. That's what we studied. That's the data that we collected. What was docketed was a request for a 4-way stop sign that does fall under the jurisdiction of Traffic Council. Traffic calming is not even under the jurisdiction of Traffic Council. It's not something that we could consider here. There's a whole other process elsewhere that considers traffic calming requests from all across the city. There are hundreds of requests that come in every year. They're all ranked, categorized. We discover which specific locations come up to the top of the list. So we're not going to be talking about traffic calming at this meeting. We'll be talking about what was docketed, which is a request for a 4-way stop sign. So, Councilor Lipoff.
Okay, Mr. Kozis, the recommendations at the end of your slideshow, are those traffic calming, or those things that we could implement now?
These are not traffic calming?
That's right. So we could do police enforcement immediately. And Captain Devine, I'd love to request that of the police department. Painting the crosswalk area would be great. So those are things we absolutely can do. Let me give you a little history here. I met Vlad when we went out for coffee together because he really cares about the safety of our kids in school. And that's how we first met. And we were talking about, unfortunately, after some of the shootings, mass shootings, what can we do in Newton to make it better? That's how we met. And as we were leaving, he mentioned to me Arnold Road in this intersection. And what I said to him, as somebody who's been on PS&T forever, understands the process and drives through that intersection because I live down the street, I said, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. It's something that I've been meaning to bring up, because every time I drive Greenwood through Arnold, I naturally stop. I don't trust that open intersection. You really can't see the stop signs on either side. And you look and go, okay, there are stop signs there. I should trust just driving through that intersection. And I still stop every time. For me, it's a four-way stop. So the idea of putting a four-way there naturally made sense to me. Now, I did tell Vlad, because of my history and my learning from Mr. Kozis, that there are warrants and that they just, there needs to be some rules and regulations, and we're putting stop signs everywhere. And I said to Vlad, I doubt this is going to meet the warrants. Now, I didn't realize that there were so many, actually so few cars coming to Greenwood on Arnold in either direction. Knowing those numbers, it makes me feel a lot safer not having to stop in that intersection. But I still say naturally, it's a wide open intersection, and all it takes is one person to not, you know, pay attention to that stop sign, and you have an issue. Now that's everywhere in the city where we have two stop signs in one direction and none in the other. I helped bring this forward because for me, I felt that it would make it only that much safer. Nevertheless, I did tell Vlad that if it didn't meet the warrants, it was probably going to be a tough thing to do. Would I support a four-way stop sign here? Absolutely. If the warrants didn't allow, and now that I know there's less traffic coming in either direction, you know, I'm less serious about it. But I am here supporting the four-way stop for the reasons that Vlad has talked about, for the reasons that I've mentioned, but I can see it going either way. I'm just trying to be fair here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Whippoff. Councilor Farrell.
Thank you again. I appreciate it. I'm always reluctant to be at any odds with my colleague from Ward 7, Lippoff, but first and foremost, this intersection is not a mile from Newton South High School. And it's my understanding that a stop sign is to say to people, stop, look around, make sure everything's okay, and that all things are working properly. It's not to cause a 30-second or 1-minute delay. I'm just recommending to you that Parker Street and Dedham Street from 8:15 to 9 o'clock in the morning are unlike most other streets in the city of Newton. 3,500 kids go to Newton South, Oak Hill Park, Oak Hill and Brown middle schools. That's 1/4 of Newton's student population. Parents are crowding those two roads, and unfortunately, for the people who live and intersect with those streets, there's not a lot of give and take. I do not see any reason to put a police person out there. I think a stop sign which says to people, stop for 2 seconds, look around, make sure everything's okay, make sure a neighbor can get out and get into traffic. It's not an unreasonable request. And they are at virtually every other intersection, four-way intersection into Brandeis Road, Lions Drive, whatever they want to call it today. I would recommend strongly that this is indeed a fairly exceptional experience. It is not like other areas of Newton. I mean, there are just literally hundreds of cars traveling down Greenwood between 8:15 and 9 o'clock in the morning. Hundreds. You saw 89 in a half-hour period. And that might have been a slow day on a Thursday. I don't know. But thank you very much. I don't want to ramble on. I just would ask you, this seems to me to be a very simple resolution to this issue. Thank you.
And Councilor Farrell, remember, we're both in the same ward. It's Ward 8, not Ward 7.
So let's move on to Rana Glasskull. And are you able to? Okay, you got it.
Yep, got it. Thank you. I live on Arnold Road, and I just want to say the same thing really that Natalie said. I just don't see an issue at that particular intersection. Now down the road, absolutely what others are saying. I wouldn't know. But at that intersection at Arnold and Greenwood, I've never had a problem making a turn there. It just seems like a very calm place, 98% of the time, except for that half hour in the morning. And my concern would be that when I go to work at 8, if there's a stop sign at Arnold and Greenwood on Greenwood Street, that it'll slow the traffic sufficiently that it'll start to back up onto Dedham, and people trying to make that left turn onto Greenwood might get backed up. That's a traffic study that somebody else can do. But just hearing the volume, those 90 cars going straight through, I could think it was 89 going straight through on Greenwood. If that slows things down, which is the whole idea, then maybe it's going to slow things down a little too much and it could get backed up onto Dedham Street. Those of you who know traffic better would have to study that. But anyway, I just wanted to echo what Natalie said. And I feel like, those of us who aren't seeing the need for it, but would have to deal with it all the time should speak up. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you for that comment. So, and probably Isaac can speak on this a little bit better, but I'll try. So, the reason that we have the MUTCD requirements, and that we are really required to follow them, is after, decades of research, and, proof of what is safe and what is not safe. I guess simplistically, let's just say that we put stop signs on Greenwood in both directions, and cars are coming down, they're all stopping, they're supposed to be stopping at this stop sign in both directions. They never see a car coming off of Arnold Road, right? There's 3 cars in a half an hour. You'd be unlikely to even see very many cars. So what would happen? People would stop, would start to ignore the stop signs, right? They just go right through them. You're creating a more dangerous situation by adding in a stop sign that's not warranted than, leaving it as it is now. And maybe Isaac could speak on that if I said anything wrong there, or did that sound about right?
Yeah, I completely agree. We often hear about the shortcomings of all sorts of always stops around the city. A lot of that guidance is put together after studies have been done, and really they have consistently found that where stop signs are not warranted, that's where the most issues arise. They do not have a great overall impact on speeds of the roadway segment. You do have increased rear end collisions. You do have potential of overall increased crashes as a result of poor driver expectations. Again, if a lot of other things are not met either. I completely agree with some of the queuing concerns. Again, that has to be studied more thoroughly, but that is a concern because that is so close to Dedham Street. If a queue builds up, that could impact operations at Dedham and Greenwood. Yeah, I'm sticking sort of to what we've found so far.
Right. And I'm not saying that maybe we are required to follow this guidance. At least it's very strongly recommended. Probably we are required to follow. This is the whole reason that we did this full analysis, because, this is what's presented. This is exactly what we're supposed to be looking at. None of these criteria are met. We're trying to keep, we're trying to avoid making the intersection less safe than it is now. Councilor Downs.
Hi, my understanding is that we're not required to, but I'm listening very carefully. And I think this is a candidate because it's near a school for additional study for traffic calming, but that is a different process. Both Councilor Farrell and Councilor Lipoff could do this on their own and make a request that it be looked at for traffic calming, and it would be part of our traffic calming process. And both of you by now should have, both my colleagues by now should have long ago found the link on the Transportation Division's page that talks about that process and shows where all those are. Look, I understand it's tough driving around that high school, and the middle schools, and it's part of that whole, the whole reason that we spend a lot of time on trying to make it safer to walk and bike to school is to, in fact, encourage more people to walk and bike so that you don't have as much car traffic. And yes, we want to make it safer for kids to walk and bike, but we also need to make sure that we're not creating a safety hazard here. So while I don't want to see a bunch of crashes at this corner, it does not seem, it seems like this is an inconvenience for about a half hour in the morning, which is typical near most of our schools. And yeah, I think some paint, perhaps also a speed feedback sign would be the short-term things that can be done. Longer-term things could be studied, but would be more expensive and would take longer. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Downs. And I see that we are joined by Councilor Bixby from Ward 6. Mitch.
So, so I have a comment, but before I make the comment, the question I have, if you could bring back that map that you were just showing. Yeah. So I guess I wondered, are there other stop signs interrupting Greenwood between, I don't know, the next 2 or 3 blocks down?
Country Club is a 4-way, correct?
Where is the next stop sign?
It's at the next intersection over.
So that's the intersection of Greenwood and I can't read the map.
Country Club.
Country Club. And what about where you have the cursor right now, which is probably a feeder off of Country Club as well? What is there a stop sign there? The next block towards Newton South, right there. No, the middle one, right there. Yeah.
Country Club.
Is there a stop sign there?
Yes. Yeah. That was the one that they were talking about as the nearest to always stop.
I understand that. So it's interesting, I was impressed with your evaluation and the couple cars and the main drag, having 80 or 90 or 100 cars. But, I'm sort of a little bit like Council Lipoff. I always stop there. I actually live in the neighborhood as well. And I always stop there for fear of exactly what Council Lipoff is saying, which is, somebody's going to come out of Arnold and not see the stop sign. The angle on that particular location seems not to work that well. I am also impressed with, what David said, David Kozis and Miss Glasgow, because I was thinking the same thing about Dedham Street and Greenwood. And, whenever I'm on Dedham Street in that time period, there are cars waiting to get into Greenwood on the left turn. Maybe they're being interfered with the right turn coming on Dedham towards Parker Street. But, it's a fairly unpleasant and congested location. And, would a stop sign actually lead to more congestion and perhaps even crashes? So I guess what I think, that this vote is not ready at this point. I think if we even want to entertain a stop sign, which, to me, it's somewhat marginal, but better than the questions that, it doesn't meet all the warrants. I sort of feel like the warrants aren't the key thing, but I think you've got to really figure out what's going to happen at Greenwood and Dedham Street. And, I don't think it's appropriate for, a trial, because I think once you do a trial, people get used to it. And then if you were to take out that stop sign, it would create more confusion than not. And then my final point, again, I'm not, if you want to weigh what I'm saying, maybe you can't figure out where I am. But I think the other problem, and I've seen this around my neighborhood, is if you put a stop sign and there's no purpose to it, there's no other intervening traffic. By the way, the best four-way stop sign in the city is at the end of Rachel Road and Winchester. That is the most phenomenal stop sign because there's so much traffic on both access points and it allows everything to move through. And of course, that's my neighborhood, so I love it because otherwise it was just like a tragedy waiting to happen every time I wanted to go to the JCC. So I would say that we ought to, I just don't think this is ready for a vote at this point.
So I just want to remind everybody that there's 7 items after this item. Let's see if we're getting close to being able to have a vote. I mean, I feel pretty strongly that we collected all the data. It doesn't come close to meeting any of the warrants and that we should deny this request. If someone wants to appeal it, that's their right. Any other comments from city councilors or traffic council members? Or would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll just echo your comment, David. I really appreciate everyone's feedback. I mean, we have this traffic council in place so that, multiple folks from different backgrounds can take a vote versus other cities that, would just have elected officials or city staff make decisions like this based on the MUTCD. So, we've definitely heard a lot of great comments. I just wanted to thank everyone for their time.
Thank you, Isaac.
David, David.
Is that Captain Devine?
Yes, I agree
Yeah.
with your assessment. I just don't see the need for it either, with all the facts presented. So,
All right, would anyone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve, to deny.
So we have a motion to deny the
We can have
request.
the-
Again, if this request is denied, there's a 20-day appeals period. This item could be appealed by filling in the correct petition at the city clerk's office. It's also on the city webpage under the traffic council section. So Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Prezant,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
No,
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Captain Devine.
aye.
Okay, that's 4-1. Mr. Fishman opposed, and the motion is denied.
All right. Thank you, and thank you all for all the comments. And we're going to move on to our next item of the night. All right, so our next item is TC 4424. This is Karen Masterson requesting to change the 2-hour limit in the Langley Road parking lot to a 3-hour time limit. And again, we'll just go through the presentation and then have public comment. This is the location, the triangle lot, the Langley lot, Langley Road lot in Newton Center. This is the chart that we would be voting to change. This is in our traffic and parking regulations. It lists every public lot in the city. So in Newton Center, we have the Cypress lot, the Langley lot, the Pelham lot, and the Pleasant lot. And then it lists how many spaces there are in each lot. How many spaces are 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 6 hour, no time limit, which is 10 hours from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then the number of accessible spaces, electric vehicle spaces, or if there are, in the case of the Langley lot, we have some employee permits and 2 Zipcar spaces. So the request is simply to change this in the Langley lot, change these 132 meters from 2 hour to 3 hour, right? So if it becomes 3 hour, if we do vote to change these meters to 3 hour, it would be consistent with all the other meters in Newton Center and most of the other short-term meters in the city. We already only have 3 hour and all day meters in the Cypress, Pelham, and Pleasant Street lot. So the request is to do the same in the Langley Street Triangle lot. And our recommendation is to base our decision on public input, either deny it, approve it, or hold it. We did get a lot of emails of support. I think we got at least 11 emails. I do want to read the one letter that we got from the Charles River Regional Chamber. I do think I saw Greg Riemann on the line before, but I'll just go ahead and read this one letter. I think it summarizes what all the other letters said. Every single email that we received supported just changing these meters from 2 hours to 3 hours. So this is what the letter says from the Charles River Regional Chamber. It says, "Dear Traffic Council members, we're writing in support of the Newton Center businesses that are petitioning to increase the Newton Center Triangle lot time limit to 3 hours. Our businesses know the center's customer base better than anyone. We trust their assessment that a 2-hour parking limit discourages patrons from making multiple stops in a single visit. Our owners want to share their foot traffic with other businesses, but see the parking limit as an impediment. For example, customers may want to meet a friend for lunch, then get their hair done at one of the many salons or window shop at the multiple consignment or other stores. Unfortunately, this kind of trip is challenging with a 2-hour parking limit. Increasing the 2-hour limit in the Triangle lot would maximize customers' time in Newton Center and allow them to explore multiple stores, making it a more attractive commercial destination. We urge the council to listen to business owners' concerns and move forward with extending the meter limit at your November 21 meeting." So that was the letter that we received. I totally agree with this letter and with all the other letters. I don't see any reason not to to make this change. So that is, I guess our recommendation is either to approve it or deny it, but really I do support this. If we do decide to go ahead and make this change, we have the language to be able to vote tonight. It's basically removing the old chart and putting in this new chart in our traffic and parking regulations with the 132 spaces as 3 hours. So that is, I think that is the whole presentation that we have. And of course, we would need to wait 21 days before anything could be changed. So after December 11th, we would be able to begin to make these changes. We're going to open it up now for public comment. Councilor Dance, did you want to speak now?
I just had a quick question. If we did a trial instead and moved the meters to 3 hours with the intention to make it permanent if it works out okay, when could that be implemented and how difficult would that be?
Well, to do a trial, I mean, a lot of times we do trials and it just means putting up a sign. But in this case, we would need to, what would we need to do? We would need to get a bunch of new stickers, right? We would need, and our parking manager has just left, so we don't have a city parking manager. So we would need to figure out how to go into the back end software and make all these individual changes in our IPS software, in our passport software. So I don't know how long it would take to get the new stickers in to put on the.
I
Yeah.
almost wonder.
Isaac, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I almost wonder if the time it takes to do a trial is almost the time it takes to just simply redocket a change back, if that is for some reason found to be the consensus.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this case, it's very likely to pass and to not be appealed. So it probably makes sense to go ahead and start ordering the new stickers, or actually, I think we need new signs in the lot as well. So it takes a little bit of time to order the signs and to get them to come in. Usually we wait until the appeal deadline before we, place the order. We don't want to risk, spending money for no reason at all. But I want to get a sense from everyone if we think that we're very, very safe to make this change and unlikely that it would be appealed. Maybe if that's the case, we could sort of start the process before December 11th and then be able to to institute the change as soon as we know how to make the change in the software and receive all the signs.
Yeah, on the other hand, if we did a trial, we could start that process right away. And assuming that we'll vote it through and it won't be appealed, it could start, the clock could start on the trial immediately. I mean, just looking at the holiday shopping season coming up and thinking about, how nice it would be to leave your car for a little longer during that period. It's a thought.
Thank you. Councilor Bixby.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak in support of this item. We've taken some time to talk to a number of businesses in the area, and I think there's lots of different reasons why this makes a lot of sense. Putting it in line with other parking lots, both within Newton Center and in other villages, makes a lot of sense. Recently met up with my Ward 6 colleagues for lunch and then got my hair done. And I did have to drive there, although I usually walk. And that was all done within 3 hours, but it would not have been possible within 2 hours. So I think this is the kind of stuff we're seeing, in our village centers, and that we'd like to support the businesses. So I hope that this is possible. Thanks.
Thank you. Other comments from the public? And I guess I would just point out that this was just docketed on October 18th. We did put it on the next available traffic council meeting. And it has been 2 hours for a very, very, very long time. So I think that we tried to make a change as quickly as we possibly could. Waiting 20 days would put us in mid-December. It is, getting close to the holidays. But I guess I'm just saying we moved as quickly as we could. Other comments from anyone?
As far as timing concern, I'm sure we can take the next 20 days to get an inventory of what 3-hour related signage and stickers we already have, considering we do have other 3-hour spaces in the city. It might not end up being that huge of a lift once we have the full go ahead.
Right. I think that when you're entering the lot, it might not say that this lot is 3-hour. It might say that it's 2 hours. So like those kind of signs we would need to order as well. We would just need to walk around and figure out which signs we need and which stickers we need. I see Karen, Galaxy S10.
Hi, it's Kay from Johnny's. Yeah, really, I really appreciate your help on this, David. You've been wonderful in helping us navigate the appropriate process to work on this. I did have a question so I understand that there's sort of logistics in terms of changing appropriate signage and how the meters, how the kiosks respond. After the December 11th, would things go live then, or is there another period of time? I'm in touch with a lot of the merchants, so I don't want to give them false hope that, we'd be ready for the holiday season. Is this something realistically that would be up and ready for the new year, as opposed to capturing the last couple of weeks of the holiday season?
I think that the difficulty that I'm having in answering that question is that we do not have a parking manager at this point. We had a parking manager for years and years, right? He left. He was the person who had access to our software. Now we are trying to fill in and hire a new parking manager. So I don't know that anyone on this call knows how long it takes. I think that we need, from what I've figured out so far, we need to make a request to our vendors to make the change in the system. And I don't have any experience to know how long that takes. It might be quick. It might take a week or two. I don't know. I don't really know right now.
Great.
All I can say is
Okay.
that we are doing our best and we're going to try to make this happen as quickly as we can.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
feel your pain on staff shortages, and we can certainly be patient. Really appreciate you considering this and seeing what an important move it will be for the center. And if it's something we can kick off the new year with, well, maybe that'll get a few more people shopping after the new year and spending more time in Newton Center. So it's all good whenever it happens. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very, very much. Mitch.
So I support this, but I had a question. I support this, but I had a question, and maybe I missed the presentation. But if we go from 2 hours to 3 hours, do we know, are there any points in the day with the current 2 hours where the lot is totally filled? Have we done an update, or is that something that you normally do, but you don't have current numbers?
I mean, we did data collection at the time that we instituted the employee permit program, right? There were many, many observations that were made when we added employee permits, reserved spaces in the lot. And I can tell you every time that I've ever been there during the day, not during the holidays, but there's always some spaces available, right? I think it becomes, in my observation, it gets more full later on in the day, even around dinner time. Sometimes when it's nice weather, it could be totally full, but that would be even after, the time, it would be after 6 o'clock, right? So the other thing to keep in mind is if you could move your car. You're not supposed to feed the meter, but right now, if you're parking for 2 hours and you need to be there for 4 hours, the requirement would be you can move your car to any other space at all. You just can't stay in the same space and feed the meter. We're hoping to make it easier to go to 3 hours, but I guess that's the answer to your question. I have not seen it completely full during the day. I don't think it generally is. I actually think that the Pelham lot and Pleasant Street, and definitely the Cypress lot, get more full than the Triangle lot. They're also smaller lots.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. There are occasions when that lot gets filled up. I definitely hear them from customers, but it's very sporadic. And as David indicated, it's much more seasonal. There might be an event happening. So generally it's, it's parking is manageable. And honestly, if someone is at Johnny's and then staying an extra hour to go frequent some retail stores, I'm thrilled. Like, that's what I want. I want to see all of our businesses thrive, and I want to see our foot traffic at Johnny's help out the other retail spaces that may not have as many people coming in. I mean, I know that there's people that don't even know there's great shops up on Union Street, right? I talk to the customers about that. So I want to help out Newton Center in that way. The other question I had, I just wanted to clarify something, David, is I thought Newton Center is now all one zone, and if you use the app, you actually can't park in another spot.
No, you pay by space in Newton. So you just need to move to any other space.
Except in the lot, if you're moving within the same lot and you're not paying by space, you're paying by the lot.
No, you're paying by the space.
You're paying by the space even there. Okay.
Yep, every single space in Newton, you pay by space. So the ordinance is that before you run out of time, you could move if you're at a metered spot. you could just move to any other space, metered or not metered, could be the space right next door. If you're in an unmetered space, like a 2-hour limit on a side street, before your time limit, you need to move to the next block. But if it's a metered space, you could just move to any other space. You just can't feed the meter. You're not supposed to pay on the app and then after 2 hours keep your car in the same space and put coins in. That's the same as feeding the meter. Okay. Any other comments? All right. I just want to thank Kay for submitting the petition and collecting the signatures. We definitely all want to see multiple visits to different shops in Newton Center and every village. That's the whole goal. So I think if this 3-hour limit helps, we should definitely be voting to support it. So I guess I'll just make a motion to approve the language. This is for TC 4424. I would approve the language of TPR 954, right, Danielle?
Yes, correct.
To make this change. That's what we would be voting on, to change the 132 2-hour spaces to 3-hour. Any last comments? All right, good. Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Prezant,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Captain Devine.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved 5-0, TPR 954.
Great, thank you. Thank you all. And we promise to move as quickly as we can on this. And our next item is TC 3924. This is Jason Richmond, 115 Gibbs Street, requesting no parking on either side of the curve in the vicinity of 111 to 121 Gibbs Street. This is the curve that we're talking about. This is just a little bit away from the triangle lot where we were just talking about. Here's a view. This is looking at the curve, looking north. So looking to the north and with the curve right in front of you. And then another view looking from the other direction. This is looking east toward the curve. So the issue is sight lines getting out of these driveways at the curve. And so our recommendation here is to hear public comment, either to deny or approve this request. If we do decide to approve this request to restrict parking around the curve, we did measure it out and we have the language to allow us to vote on it tonight. We need to have the language in front of us, the specific measurements to be able to vote. So if we do want to restrict parking around the curve, I would recommend that the no parking sign would be, under the 2-hour limit sign. On this pole, it's 150 feet north of Everett Street. We don't want to, this would avoid putting in new poles on the street. And then the other one could be on this pole. This would be 310 feet north of Everett Street. It's after the fire hydrant, after the driveway, on an existing pole. So that would be my recommendation if we do want to approve this request. And here's the language that we would be voting on. So it would still be the same regulation along Gibbs Street. Still would be, let's see. So it would still be the 2-hour limit except by resident permit, just interrupted by an area of no parking. And I would like to open it up for public comment if anyone is here for this item. I see Pamela. Is it Bromberg? Yep. And if you can unmute and just say your address, please.
So I live at 129 Gibbs Street, and based on the photograph that you just gave, I think that the pole would, that the no parking sign would be on a pole right past my own driveway.
So is your driveway
On the
right
west
after this
side,
fire
yes.
hydrant?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Beyond
'cause
the
you can't
fire.
park within you can't park within 10 feet of a fire hydrant and then within 5 feet of a driveway, and then you already have this existing pole, right?
The pole is beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I am in favor of extending no parking, although I'm not sure that I want it to go so far that it's completely in front of my own house. I think the main reason to do this is for safety. Gibbs Street has become an alternate route for cars avoiding traffic in Newton Center. So they come up Gibbs Street going east, and then they turn onto Dalton in order to make a left turn on Beacon Street. So there's been a real increase of traffic as the apps have become popular. And as a resident, when I am driving, going north at that curve on my way home, I am always concerned about oncoming traffic going rather fast in the other direction at that blind curve. So I think that that is very dangerous. And when there are vehicles parked, the street becomes more narrow and the danger increases. So various lawn companies will park there, or service vehicles, whatever. So this proposal would take care of that danger. On the other hand, the lawn vehicles usually park in front of my house because that's the longest stretch of road available. So I guess I'm suggesting that maybe the placement could be evaluated.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Isaac, do you have the ability to take a quick look at Google Maps?
Yeah. So
and see where the fire hydrant is, where the driveway is, and
Yep.
then where I
It's in
tried
front-
to use the existing utility poles, and then be beyond the driveway. So do you have any thoughts of if there's a different option that we might be able to consider?
So, in my opinion, the parking restriction really affects 121 Gibbs Street, your neighbor to your right, sort of if you're looking at in front of your home. And that pole, the utility pole where we would post a sign, that is pretty far to the right of your frontage, so that still leaves quite a bit of parking within the frontage of your home. Without dismissing the concern at all, it would just mean that if we do decide to instead go to the utility pole, but 5 feet off of the driveway for 121 Gibbs Street, we'd be talking about like a 10 to 15-foot difference just to add in another signpost, potentially near tree roots.
So that's probably,
feel-
that's exactly
yeah.
that must be what I was thinking when I went out there to
Yeah.
try to avoid putting in another pole. And then, go through the dig safe process, make sure, that you're not
Yeah.
destroying any trees.
Based on the distance between the pole and 5 feet of the driveway for 129 Gibbs Street, you can definitely fit at least like two very pretty lengthy vehicles, like easily a passenger vehicle and a landscape truck.
So Isaac, do you mean beyond the
Yeah,
utility
right.
pole?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So between the utility pole and the driveway where it would still remain
Yeah,
parking.
I think that's exactly what I was thinking when I went out there. That
Yep.
it's probably best just to use the existing infrastructure that we have and still, it's still a 2-hour limit, and then the residents could park all the time with their permits. It might be another 10 feet down the street.
Yep. Right.
And of course, if we do approve this, again, it's just a parking regulation. And if it ends up being extremely, inconvenient, docket another item and slightly revise it in the future, right? Other comments? I don't see any. Councilor Bixby.
Sorry, just, I'd also heard from many neighbors about the importance of this and the safety issues. So just wanted to, briefly reiterate that as well. Thanks.
Thank you. So, Councilor Downs.
Yeah, I think the sightlines are definitely what's moving me towards support on this. Do note though, when you remove cars, you often increase the speed of vehicles that go down a street. So, but again, it's something we can remove if the neighbors then later say, hey, it'd be better to have cars parked there. So I probably
It's the
will.
speed, right?
Right, because there's so much, because now they're going faster, which is the other danger. So, but it seems reasonable to me.
Thank you. All right, so I don't see any other hands raised. So we do have the language in front of us. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, so we have a motion from Isaac to approve the language shown on slides 29 and 30. This would be TPR 955. Any last comments? Okay, can you call the roll, please, Danielle?
Yes. Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Prezant,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
and Captain Devine.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved 5-0 TPR 955.
Right, so this was approved. Again, we can't do anything until we wait for our 20-day appeals period. Make sure that nobody appeals this item. Assuming no appeals, then we would be able to add the new signage sometime after December 11th. And so thank you very much. And we're going to go on to our next item. So the next item is TC 4524. This is LaSalle University and Counselor Gentile requesting to add Studio Road into the Auburndale Village Parking District, with parking to be by permit only within the areas where parking will be allowed. Okay, so here is Studio Road. It's a private way, and it's abutting LaSalle University. Here's a view. This is a view of Studio Road. This is from Aspen Avenue looking north. Okay, and I actually took like a little video for the first time. This is just a Google Maps video. I just wanted to show in this movie that just the very beginning of Studio Road is paved. You can see the paved portion right here. Right now we're moving south, and it's going to turn around here, and then this is looking to the north. You see, this is the area on the right where we would like to make a change. It's a 2-hour limit right now. We're looking to make a change there along the, the paved portion, and then after like 180 feet or something, it becomes, no parking would be, available on either side. So this shows the current Auburndale Village Parking District. And that Studio Road currently is not, not part of the Auburndale Village Parking District. Even though it's not part of the district, there is resident permit parking on the west side for the first 180 feet. But then there's a 2-hour limit at all times on the east side of the first 180 feet, and then it's prohibited after that. So the recommendation is to add this street, Studio Road, into the Auburndale Village Parking District, and to make both sides of the paved portion Auburndale permit only. You can only park there with the Auburndale permit. You have to be a resident of Studio Road. No parking along the rest of Studio Road where, parking would not be available. So that's our recommendation. And we have the language here to be able to vote on it. This is the specific measurements, adding Studio Road into what we call, it's section 206. It's all the characteristics of the Auburndale Village Parking District, just adding Studio Road as one of the streets that is, included in the district. So I'll just leave this map in. This is our recommendation, and I'm going to open it up for any public comment on this proposal. Don't see anyone raising their hands.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, Councilor Down.
It's a private way for the length?
Yes.
Okay, and how does that work with enforcement?
So
Are we allowed to enforce on private ways?
We are allowed to enforce on private ways if it ends up being added into the traffic and parking regulations through this public process.
Okay.
So the item was docketed, and if it's approved, we would post right now. Well, if it is approved, we would add city signs. There's already a city sign on the west side, right? So, and on the east side, it's already actually in our traffic and parking regulations.
Okay.
And we would just be making a change. But yes, it
right.
could be enforced and signed even on a private way if the item goes through the traffic council process.
All right, good
Councilor
to know.
Gentile. Yep. Councilor Gentile.
I don't know, I was silent when you asked for comment because I was told that there would be someone here from LaSalle. I didn't know if they wanted to speak first. But anyway, I'll be really brief. When we first moved here in 2004, 20 years ago, there was no parking allowed on this stretch of road, and it's a small stretch of the length of Studio. I think it's around 135 feet. Several years ago, David, you probably have it. You helped me and LaSalle and Jay Babcock from the police department. We decided to change it from no parking to 2-hour parking. And the reason that we did that was twofold. One, to open up some additional parking for the residents of the area. And then also at that corner, that LaSalle building is the Rockwell Child Care Center. And we wanted to allow for some additional parking there for the families of the kids that were going to the child care center. Unfortunately, it hasn't had the desired effect. And what's happened is that the students got word that this had changed from no parking and that this was a good spot to park, especially overnight. And so it hasn't had the desired effect. And right now, if I took a picture, though it's a little too dark to do it, you would see that entire stretch is parked up bumper to bumper. And those cars are students' cars, and they will be there all night into the morning. And if somebody's trying to drop off their kid is looking to park there, they won't be able to do so. The police, they do, and our parking control officers do try and enforce the regulation. But what I've been told repeatedly is, with 2-hour parking, it's a little bit more difficult because you have to enter in how long a person's been there initially, and then you got to come back. and maybe the person's there, maybe they're gone. But it's not the easiest thing to enforce. So if we change it to be part of the Auburndale district, actually the college will get have the right to a couple of stickers to allow for parking. And they would also, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, David, they'd be entitled to 2 guest parking stickers, so permits. So that the school will still be able to use that spot. I won't be able to because I don't live on Studio Road, but what happens now is, it's parked up anytime that school is in session. Kids come home at night, kids being kids, and if, when they park their cars there, oftentimes it gets a little noisy when you're, trying to sleep, whatever. So to make it easier for enforcement purposes and to allow LaSalle to continue to park there, if we put it in and we have the stickers, it'll be easier for parking control officers because they can just look and see if somebody has a sticker or not. And if they don't have a sticker, they don't belong there, and they'll be able to issue the ticket right away, as opposed to having to do the 2-hour timing and so forth. So that's the thinking. I wish that it had worked as we had intended it to, but it's been several years now, and not only are they parking there, but if they go over there to park and they don't get a space, then they end up on Aspen Ave. Like in this morning, there were 3 cars parked all night on Aspen. So that's why we proposed the change. I want to thank the school. When I talked to the chief about it, he was sympathetic and, checked with his people and decided to docket it because, as David explained to me, I don't even have a right to docket. I just went on the item to indicate that I had, that I supported it, and that if any of my neighbors on Studio or whatever had any questions, and I did get one yesterday, that, they would know to call me. So, but I appreciate the university docketing the item.
All right, thank you very much, Councilor Gentile. I see Jennifer Duffy.
Hi, I work admin for the LaSalle University Police Department, and I also work in the parking office here. We are in agreement with this. We're in agreement with anything that we can do to try to help the neighbors in the area. We know it's a struggle with the parking spots up there, as they are for 2 hours. And we try our best to get the message across to our students about the concerns that you guys have as well. But I think this would be a better solution to just stop that in its tracks. And we appreciate also being able to have the stickers.
Thank you very much for that. And it's also, I did want to point out that there's about 4 other residences on Studio Road, and they would be eligible to get a permit since they do abut Studio Road for the occasional time that they might have a guest that would need a place to park. So it would benefit those residents as well. Lauren, Shay?
Hi there. I live on Studio Road actually, and I just wanted to say that we're in support of this as well.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Hi, yes, I'm Amy. I also live on Studio Road and showed up to support this this measure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So since Studio Road is going to be part of the district, again, these residents that abut Studio Road would be eligible to get a permit or visitor sticker for the occasional time that since they can't, there is no parking on most of Studio Road, but there's enough spaces at the very base to be able to park from time to time. Any other comments? All right, so moving to traffic council. Any comments from traffic council? Anyone like to make a motion? We do have the language in front of us to be able to vote.
I
It's all
move
just
to-
very specific language.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, good. So we have a motion from Counselor Downs to approve all the language that's shown on pages 37 and 38. This would be TPR 956. And we're ready for a vote, Danielle.
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Prezant,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Captain Devine.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved 5-0 TPI 956.
Okay, great, wonderful. So we just need to wait until after December 11th. And again, that's when we would be able to start posting the new, removing the old 2-hour signs and putting the new signage up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Moving on. So our next item is TC 3324. This is Joanne Marr, 26 Brooks Avenue, requesting a stop sign at the end of Proctor Street westbound where it intersects with Walker Street. Note that this petition does not request a stop sign on Walker Street itself. So here is the location. This is the end of Proctor Street where you see the red rectangle at Walker Street. It's a T intersection. This is what it looks like when you're looking west toward Walker Street. There's no stop sign right now. So, and we get these requests almost at every single traffic council meeting to put in a stop sign at a T intersection like this. This is different from the item our first item, or the item that we heard earlier tonight, which was a request for a 4-way stop. This is only a request to put a stop sign at the T intersection. So in this case, there are no official warrants in the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. It's an implied stop. You could put a stop sign there, but it's not required. But historically, when these requests, and there's another one later tonight, when these requests do come to Traffic Council, we do tend to approve them. We view them as a small safety benefit, clarifies who has the right of way, and just a small safety benefit, especially when you have pedestrians and cyclists nearby. So we do recommend to approve the stop sign at this location, and we have the language to allow us to vote. We did get one email about this item. It was in opposition to putting the stop sign. I think it said that there have been no crashes over many, many years and not needed. That's all that we've heard so far. And we can open it up for public comment at this point. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Any members of traffic council or city councilors? I think that, I don't see a name, but I think that there's someone who might want to speak.
Yeah,
Oh, Jody Marr. Okay, now I see it. It was cut off. So can you unmute yourself if you wish to speak?
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you having this on the agenda tonight. So the main reason that this is important is that Walker Street itself is extremely busy and getting busier because of the new early childhood education location. And it's busier than it was when it was the old Horace Mann School because it has multiple drop-offs and pickups. I'm not familiar with the exact times, but we do have a lot of traffic going down there. And the topography on Walker Street is also a concern because it does go downhill from Washington to Watertown. So people come down from Washington Street going north, and they go pretty fast. I don't even know what the speed limit is there, but And because there are a lot of cars parked on both sides, it is kind of dangerous. I have a dog and I walk there several times a day, and I've seen some real near misses at that point. So just looking to make it safer for everyone, especially people going to and from the school. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I don't see anybody. We do have the language to be able to vote on. It's shown here on the slide on page 44 to add the stop sign. I would recommend that we add the stop sign, even though we do have the one email in opposition. And again, if we do vote to approve it and someone strongly disagrees with us, there is the appeals process. It wouldn't be posted until after December 11th. So I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the stop sign as TPR 957. Are there any last comments? Okay. Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Prezant,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
and Captain Devine.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved 5-0, TPR 957.
Okay, thank you. And then similarly, we have TC 4624. This is David Kozas, Traffic Council Chair, requesting to add a stop sign at the end of Dartmouth Street where it intersects with Prince Street. Note that this item does not request to add a stop sign on Prince Street itself. I'm sure that I docketed this after hearing a request from a nearby neighbor to add a stop sign at this T intersection, Dartmouth Street at Prince Street. Here's the view. And it's the same slide that we saw before, where we are not required to add a stop sign, but especially if it's near a school or pedestrians crossing, we do think that it clarifies right of way. And if the intersection is slightly awkward, offers a safety benefit for pedestrians and bicyclists. So again, here I am recommending that we approve this stop sign at this location, and we have the language to be able to vote. So I'm going to open it up for public comment on this item. Seeing none, I'll make the motion to approve this item TC 4624 to add the stop sign Dartmouth Street at Prince Street. We do have one email in support, by the way, I forgot to mention. So in this case, we do have the email supporting the stop sign. So the motion is to approve TPR 958 with the language on page 50. Any last comments?
I bike by there regularly, and so it's on Dartmouth as you get to Prince.
Yep.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem at all.
Thank you. Any other comments? Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Prezant,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
and Captain Devine.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved 5-0, TPR 958.
Thank you. Moving right along. This is TC 4224. Richard Telly, 5 Bemis Road, requesting a parking restriction on a section of Bemis Road near California Street. All right. So here is the location. Actually, at first I couldn't even figure out what this was, because even though I've passed this street so many times, I knew Bemis Street, but I never even knew there was Bemis Road a couple blocks away. But then I figured it out. So we're talking about Bemis Road right here in this rectangle, a little bit of a curve as it approaches California Street. You can see the curve here. I think the issue is that when vehicles are exiting from Bemis Road, if there's a car that's parked along the curve coming from California Street, it would go, around that car and be on the opposite side of the street, maybe conflicting with a vehicle traveling down toward California Street. So it seems like totally a reasonable request from all the residents of the street that signed the petition. And here is a view looking, you can see the curve looking from California Street here. The recommendation is to add in a parking restriction along the section near the curve. Again, using the existing utility poles whenever we could. I think that it's probably pretty good to use the existing utility poles here and to just add in the no parking anytime signs at these locations to clear out that curve. And here is the language. It's 105 feet of no parking and then no change along the rest of Bemis Road. So that is the recommendation, and we want to open it up now. Hold on. Okay. So I see Philip Gruss. Well, why don't you unmute and say your name and your address, please?
My name is Philip Grossefa. I want to thank the board for having this open meeting. I can't see the figures that you put up. I live across the street at 33 Bemis Road from the suggested no parking area. And I'm in agreement with no parking on that side of the road. My question is, does it include my side of the road, the no parking area? Or only the one side?
So it is no parking on the east side,
only on
around
the
the
east side.
curve.
Right.
And then parking would still be allowed on, no change along the rest of the street.
Okay, I'm in complete favor with that. It is a danger.
I can't get back to my presentation right now. I don't know why. Let me try to, okay. I think we're good. What was this, like page 50 or something? Okay, here we are. All right, so I see Steve Jensen.
Sorry, I was just unmuted and then it muted me again. So that if you look at that view right there, my driveway is the one on the left-hand side. I'm at 22 Bemis Road. And I think that utility pole right where your pointer is, that's where it would the parking restriction would be from there to the end of the street at California Street. I concur with everything that's been said so far. Basically, the issue is when you're turning, especially when you're turning from California Street, taking a right onto Bemis Road. That's where it's sort of a blind view. And so if a car happens to be coming out of Bemis Road at the same time, especially if they're driving fast, then you may have an issue there. So I do support that limited parking restriction from that telephone pole to the street. We see a lot of people, especially service vehicles, construction vehicles, parking, on that right-hand side of the street as you're coming from California Street. That's happened a lot. It regularly happens. You saw it when the picture you have shows a car parked there. And that can obstruct the view of drivers pulling onto Bemis Road. So I support that.
Thank you very much. We do try to use the existing infrastructure as much as we can, in this case, the utility poles. Otherwise we would, if we wanted to extend it even a little further, it would mean buying a new pole, the aesthetics of the new pole. So I think this is probably good enough. And if we do find that it is not quite working, there's always the option of coming back to Traffic Council and extending it a little further, but this is probably, I think this will be probably good enough to do the trick. Any other comments? Richard? Yes, Richard Simontelli. do you have a comment? You would need to unmute. Let's just give it a minute. I think there might be some difficulty unmuting or with, the presentation. Okay, you did unmute. Did you have a comment?
You could, Dan.
Yeah, I fully support the recommendation. I think the curve is a dangerous curve. You may have children walking up to car school, and the traffic flow on California Street is very fast and busy. And with the cars parking along that curve, it blindsides people walking up the street. So I agree with.
Very good. Thank you very much for that comment, Mr. Cementelli. And you live at 5 Bemis Road. So thank you for taking the lead in docketing the item. Any other comments? Seeing none, I would like to just go ahead and make the motion to approve the language shown on slide 56. It's 105 feet of new parking regulation on the east side. This would be TPR 959. And we would need to wait until after December 11th to post the new signs. Any last comments? All right, I'm sorry, Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr.
Danielle, call
Kosis.
the roll, please.
Mr.
Yes.
Kosis.
Aye.
Mr. Prezant.
Aye.
Mr. Fishman.
Aye.
Captain Downs.
Captain
Counselor
Downs
Downs.
says yes.
Counselor Downs, sorry. And Captain Devine.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved 5-0, TPR 959.
Thank you. It's been a long day, right? So our last item is TC 4324. Traffic Bureau Captain Daniel Devine, DPW Commissioner James McGonigal, and Commissioner of Public Buildings, Josh Morse, requesting a long-term trial to allow temporary changes to certain parking regulations and traffic circulation on streets near the Countryside Elementary School in order to facilitate the reconstruction of the school. Once the construction project is complete, this trial will end. However, permanent changes to the traffic and parking regulations will be needed to reflect future conditions near the Countryside School, and different traffic council items will be docketed to handle these permanent changes to the TPR. Okay, so this is just a trial for during the construction period in the area around the Countryside School. We know that the school is going to go under construction, I believe, starting in September. The new school will be constructed at the same time that the existing school is still in use in this case. So we like to docket these types of trials to offer, flexibility and just to make it quicker and easier for us to be able to respond to traffic or circulation or parking concerns that we don't know yet what they'll be. It could be that there's too much parking on a neighborhood street, let's say. It could be that, there might be a street that allows parking on both sides right now that we find is too parked up and unsafe, and we might need to temporarily put in some type of parking restriction on a street near the school. And this is, we would not be making any permanent changes to our traffic and parking regulations. This would all be a temporary trial that would go in as needed and then removed. And if we determine that permanent changes need to be made, then other items would be docketed, the neighbors would be notified. talk about that specific permanent change down the road. So that's why we docket these kinds of trials. The alternative would be that the traffic bureau would need to hear about a particular problem, file some paperwork with our transportation superintendent. It's a longer process. So I think it's easier to be able to have a trial to make the changes quickly as needed. So that's why we docketed this item, and we're looking to hold this item for a long-term trial for various parking and circulation changes that we don't know what they are yet near the Countryside School site. So that's this item. Mitch.
So I think I've asked this question before, but I'll ask it again. So the adjustments on the neighboring streets, taking parking off, putting it on, shifting it around, what is the process for notifying neighbors in general? Is there some kind of blanket notification, or is it just we give them this one shot and it extends for whatever the period of construction is?
It's this item for any sort of temporary change. If, let's say, we do know that in the future, when the building comes closer to being completed, that the bus zones would change, the blue zones are going to change, the parking might change. So those items will be docketed later. The neighbors would all be notified, right? So this is only about the temporary construction changes that are needed for safety.
Well, let me just follow up. So let's take it as an example, Boundbrook Road, which is a block or so away, and there's a need for construction parking to occur on that street for whatever the reason is. And people now see construction vehicles in front of their house. Are they pre-warned about it? Is there a notification where they should expect something that they haven't had before? Or is it just sort of expected that this is just temporary, so there's no need to notify?
I mean, I would expect if there's a change on Boundbrook Road, it would be probably restricting parking on one side if there's too many cars on the street. If we don't feel that it's safe to have cars on both sides. But, traffic council does not we're not going to notify every time that there's a temporary change. There's temporary changes that happen all the time, all through the city, right? So I think it was probably part of the whole public process of the building design, and neighbors were probably involved then. But I guess to answer your question, I don't think that there's any notification that comes from traffic council for temporary changes like this.
So our job is to facilitate, but I would say on the job people or the coordinating people, that's where the coordination or the notification or back and forth is expected to happen, but not through us.
Not through us. It would be probably the police finding that there's a problem, or, Public Works hearing some neighbor calling us saying they can't get through the streets, or our own observation. We would investigate and then make a change if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So Captain Devine and Isaac, do you agree with, did I get that about right, do you think?
Yeah, the only other one I would add is just construction staging. If for whatever reason, some area of Dedham Street needs to be used for a specific reason that's not needed 3 months later, based on where they're at with rebuilding the roadway or having access to the area that they're constructing around the existing schools, stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's the same kind of item that we passed at Traffic Council for the Franklin. Oh, maybe we didn't do it yet for Franklin School, but we will. Lincoln Elliott and the swing space, we already you know, all of the big projects on Needham Street and Com Ave. So this is just our process. And so this is, you know, not unique. Any other comments? We're looking for a motion to hold. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion to hold this item for a long-term trial for various changes to the parking and circulation on streets near the Countryside School site. Any last comments? All right. Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Prezant,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
and Captain Devine.
Aye.
Okay, that's held 5-0.
All right, that concludes our business. Thank you all. Our next traffic council meeting will be on December 19th.
Thanks,
Thank you
all.
again.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thanks so much.